Jinwoo stepped into the boss room, engulfed in complete darkness. Despite his heightened perception stat, he could barely see a few steps ahead. The stone floor radiated a cold chill, contrasting the warmth of his tense body. As soon as he stepped forward, dozens of torches ignited simultaneously, illuminating what resembled an ancient underground temple, complete with towering columns and a massive throne at the far end. But before he could reach the throne, a crimson-armored figure emerged from behind the columns. Its name glowed in red above its head. Blood-red commander of the Knights Legion, Ygritte. This knight was unlike the sluggish ones Jinwoo had faced before. Agile and fierce, Ygritte exuded a terrifying presence. Its glowing helmet eyes resembled the cold gaze of a ruthless machine. Unexpectedly, Ygritte discarded his weapons and cape, raising his fists to challenge Jinwoo to a hand-to-hand fight. Despite Jinwoo's incredible speed and strength, he struggled against Ygritte's overwhelming power and precision. Ygritte's blows pierced through Jinwoo's defenses, leaving him battered and bloodied. As Jinwoo desperately tried to counter, he realized conventional attacks were ineffective against Ygritte's formidable armor. At the moment Ygritte prepared to finish him with a sword slash, Jinwoo, using his special gauntlet, blocked the strike and seized the opportunity to stab Ygritte in the eye with Kasaka's venom fang dagger, triggering a deafening roar of agony. But Ygritte still stood. In a last-ditch effort, Jinwoo grabbed Ygritte's waist, activated his sprint skill, and rammed them both into the wall at breakneck speed. The impact shook the entire chamber, yet Ygritte refused to fall. Summoning every ounce of willpower, Jinwoo unleashed his vital spot strike skill repeatedly on Ygritte's neck. Blow after blow, sparks flew until finally the blade broke through the armor. With a cracking sound, the blade pierced Ygritte's weak spot, and the system declared his victory. Jinwoo had defeated the blood-red commander, Ygritte. Exhausted and trembling, Jinwoo collapsed, but soon gathered himself to check the loot. The rewards were staggering. An S-rank Blood Knight's helmet that boosted strength and vitality, a rune stone containing the Dominator's touch skill, a core stone, and a leather pouch filled with 1.5 million gold. Even the simplest-looking reward turned out to be a fortune. His heart raced with excitement as he realized the tougher the boss, the greater the treasure. But despite the epic victory, the mission remained incomplete, and the silence of the chamber left Jinwoo wondering what other trials awaited him. For now, he clung to his hard-earned rewards, knowing that surviving this battle had pushed him to his very limits.
Jinwoo had finally obtained his first ever S-rank gear, the Crimson Knight's helmet. Not only did it significantly boost his strength and vitality, but it also reduced incoming physical damage by 15%. This piece alone felt like it combined the effects of his previous 2 A-rank items, Kasaka's Poison, which permanently reduced physical damage by 20%, and the Guardian's Necklace, boosting agility and perception by 20 points each, but without any negative side effects. Despite its immense value, Jinwoo couldn't help but laugh awkwardly at its blood-red appearance and long flowing crest. Thank goodness no one could see how ridiculous it looked on him. Upon equipping the helmet, his stats soared. Strength 128 plus 20. Vitality 87 plus 20. Physical damage reduction 46%. But there was no time to celebrate. 2 more items remained: the Runestone Dominator's Touch and a mysterious Heartstone. The Heartstone, when shattered, would instantly teleport Jinwoo out of the dungeon, but it would disappear if the mission ended. As soon as Jinwoo picked it up, the system made it clear. You have acquired the Heartstone. The class change quest will now officially begin. Suddenly, a countdown timer appeared. 10 seconds until the dimensional gates opened. Jinwoo had a choice: flee using the Heartstone, or endure the onslaught to earn points toward his class change. Before he could decide, the gates burst open, unleashing waves of silver-armored knights. Jinwoo activated stealth, but an enemy mage used detect vision, exposing his position. Forced into combat, he unleashed a brutal onslaught, activating Bloodlust to lower the enemy's stats by 50% for 1 minute. He fought like a demon, crushing enemies left and right, but their numbers grew endlessly. After holding out for over 5 minutes, exhaustion set in. He reached for the Heartstone to escape, but tragedy struck. The Heartstone slipped from his grasp and was kicked away by a knight, lost amidst the chaos. As his HP dropped dangerously low, the system repeatedly triggered his Iron Will passive, reducing damage intake by 50%. But Jinwoo could feel his body reaching its limit. Amidst the suffocating tide of enemies, a mysterious voice mocked him. Why take the dangerous path? Isn't rising from E rank to B rank already a miracle? This is your limit. But Jinwoo, refusing to yield, roared in defiance. He remembered every humiliation, every sneer when he was weak. This was his only chance to climb to the top, and he would not let it slip away. Even with just 93 HP left, he raised his fist, ready to fight until the end. The countdown struck 0. You have failed to complete the daily quest. You will now be transported to the penalty zone. The first phase of Jinwoo's class change quest ended in bitter defeat, but his indomitable willpower burned brighter than ever. The battle for his destiny had only just begun.
Jinwoo couldn't believe his eyes. The penalty zone. In his rush to challenge the class change quest, he had forgotten to complete his daily quest. As a result, he was forcibly transported to the deadly desert where he had once barely survived. The battlefield trembled violently. The knights he had just fought crumbled into sand, and his surroundings transformed into the vast, empty wasteland. But unlike before, Jinwoo wasn't the same weak hunter. Despite having only about 100 HP, Jinwoo remained calm. He purchased the highest grade recovery potion, eliminating his exhaustion, but his HP remained critically low, below 10%. He realized that both healing spells and potions had their limits, another hard-earned lesson. Soon, the sand beneath him shifted, and from it emerged the dreaded enemies, giant saw-toothed sand centipedes. The system's familiar message appeared. Penalty quest. Survive for 4 hours. Instead of fear, Jinwoo smiled. He knew that surviving here would earn him more time for the class change quest. This was his chance to gather strength before returning to the deadly knights. In just 17 seconds, he took down the first centipede with surgical precision. His critical stab skill leveled up, and his overwhelming strength and speed turned the once deadly monsters into mere prey. For 4 relentless hours, Jinwoo slaughtered countless centipedes, leveling up to 51. His strength, gear, and skills had reached new heights. But in true penalty zone fashion, there were no item drops, only survival. As the timer neared 0, Jinwoo prepared for the coming storm. He opened the shop and spent his hard-earned gold on a new weapon. Night Killer, a serrated B-rank dagger that dealt extra damage against armored enemies. It was the perfect tool against the armored knights he would soon face. He strapped it securely to his hand, learning from his earlier mistake of losing the Heartstone. He also shattered Ygritte's runestone, unlocking a new skill, Dominator's Touch. Level 1. Allows Jinwoo to manipulate objects without touching them, consuming 0 mana. Testing the skill, he effortlessly summoned Kasaka's Venom Fang into his hand, a trick that could save his life in a pinch. Just as the penalty quest ended, the system warned him, because you hunted monsters in the penalty zone, its difficulty will increase next time. Jinwoo gave a wry smile. Hopefully, there wouldn't be a next time. As the countdown hit 0, Jinwoo knew where he was headed, back to the dungeon filled with hundreds of silver knights. But this time, he wasn't the same hunter who had been crushed under their numbers. His heart pounded in his chest as he steadied his breath and opened his eyes, sharp and unwavering. Returning to the battlefield, Jinwoo's first targets weren't the knights, but the enemy mages, the real threat controlling the flow of battle. A new chapter of combat was about to unfold. Jinwoo finally discovered the secret behind the endless waves of knights. The mages were the true enemy, controlling the armored husks like puppets. Dashing across the battlefield, he leapt from one knight's shoulder to another, heading straight for the mages hidden in the distance. As soon as he killed the first mage, the entire army of knights collapsed like broken marionettes. His theory was right. The knights were just empty armor, animated by magic. Armed with the Night Killer, he sliced through the enemies effortlessly. This dagger wasn't just some basic shop item. It was a lethal weapon, perfect against armored foes. Using his stealth, he identified 5 more mages by the glowing eye of detection symbols floating above them. With relentless speed and deadly precision, he took them down one by one. Each time a mage fell, another wave of knights crumbled to dust. But the remaining 3 mages pooled their power, summoning a massive metal golem, towering over Jinwoo. Its sheer size and power could crush the entire chamber. Rather than fleeing, Jinwoo charged forward. He slid between the golem's legs and appeared right in front of the mages. In a flash of steel, all 3 were cut down. With the mages gone, the golem and the knights disintegrated, leaving the battlefield eerily silent. At last, the system spoke. You have defeated all monsters in the trial. The class change quest has ended. Your class will now be determined. Jinwoo let out a long sigh. He had survived nearly 4 hours and 30 minutes, far exceeding the mission's requirements. Ironically, it was his mistake, dropping the Heartstone, that forced him to face the battle head-on and uncover the truth behind the illusions. Otherwise, he might have simply kept fighting endlessly without realizing the real threat. The system began analyzing his actions. The player is the embodiment of death. The path you walk is paved with corpses. The army of the dead shall obey your every command. Jinwoo expected to become an assassin, reflecting his solo fighting style. But the system had other plans. Your class is Necromancer. Jinwoo froze. A necromancer? Seriously? He had always fought alone, relying on his own strength. The thought of summoning an army was completely foreign to him. But perhaps it was fitting. After all, Jinwoo had always carved his path through death and solitude. Now, even the dead would rise to follow him.
Jinwoo was stunned when the class Necromancer appeared before him. A solo dagger-wielding assassin, suddenly labeled a summoner of the dead? He couldn't believe it. He had never invested a single point into intelligence. He had never imagined himself as a mage. But the system didn't choose based on his weapons or stats. It chose based on the path of blood and death he had walked. At first, Jinwoo was ready to refuse, but when the system revealed that this was a hidden class, he paused. Hidden classes were rare and incredibly powerful. If this was his chance to become something greater than a mere assassin, how could he refuse? He recalled the mages from his earlier battle. They too commanded legions of armored knights. But unlike them, Jinwoo wasn't weak. He was a powerful fighter and could lead an army. In the end, he accepted. But then something even more unexpected happened. Because his trial score far exceeded the requirement, the system upgraded his class from Necromancer to something greater, Monarch of Shadows. Jinwoo's heart pounded as he read the words. He wasn't just a summoner now. He was a king of darkness, a ruler of the dead. Almost instantly, thick black smoke began to rise from the corpses around him. The system prompted him. These targets can be used for shadow extraction. He uttered the activation phrase, "Rise," and then the shadows from the fallen bodies twisted and convulsed, pulling themselves up from the ground. In moments, dozens of dark-armored soldiers stood at attention around him. Jinwoo approached them, his hand brushing over their cold, solid armor. They were real, yet devoid of life. Checking his new skills, he saw two unique abilities. Shadow extraction, summon shadow soldiers from the dead. And shadow storage, store shadow soldiers for later use. At his current level, he could command up to 30 soldiers. They obeyed his every command. He raised his hand to the right. The soldiers moved to the right. He gestured forward. They advanced. When he lowered his hand, they all knelt before him, silent and loyal. Jinwoo's heart was pounding, but a grin spread across his face. This is amazing.
After summoning his shadow soldiers, Jinwoo realized one thing. He couldn't waste Ygritte's corpse. Ygritte was one of the strongest enemies he had ever faced. Turning him into a shadow soldier would be a huge gain. He found Ygritte's corpse still embedded in the wall, black smoke rising from it. It was the perfect target for shadow extraction. Jinwoo approached and gave the command, "Rise." But it didn't work. The system reminded him he had already reached the maximum of 30 shadows. To summon Ygritte, he needed to dismiss one of his existing soldiers. Though he had only fought alongside his shadows briefly, Jinwoo felt a strange attachment to them. Still, the opportunity to summon Ygritte was too great to pass up. He dismissed one ordinary soldier and tried again. The first attempt to extract Ygritte's shadow failed. The second attempt also failed. With only one chance left, Jinwoo was filled with anxiety. If he failed again, Ygritte's shadow would be lost forever. He took a deep breath, focused his will, and stretched out his hand. "Rise." This time, black smoke surged violently. A hand rose from the shadow, followed by a figure in dark armor. Ygritte had returned, reborn as a level 7 Shadow Knight. Jinwoo was thrilled. The system even allowed him to name his high-ranking shadows. After a brief moment of thought, he named him simply Ygritte. Now Jinwoo had a 30-strong shadow army with Ygritte as his elite knight. He couldn't help but feel proud. The powerful boss who once sought his life
now stood loyally by his side. But he knew that a mere 30 soldiers was not enough. In the future, his army would grow much larger. He dreamed of commanding a vast legion of shadows. However, a problem remained. How could he walk around the real world with a shadow army trailing behind him? That would draw unwanted attention. That's when he remembered the other skill he hadn't yet used: shadow storage. Perhaps this was the key, a way to store his soldiers and summon them only when needed.
Jinwoo's final class skill, shadow storage, revealed its true power. The ability to absorb his shadow soldiers into his own shadow and summon them at will. But it came with an unexpected limitation. Though he could extract 30 soldiers, the storage capacity at level 1 was capped at only 20, meaning Jinwoo had to make a painful choice: dismiss 10 of his newly created soldiers into oblivion. Though he had only fought alongside them for a brief time, Jinwoo felt an unexpected bond, as if they were comrades rather than mere shadows. He selected the 10 furthest foot soldiers and bid them farewell, their forms vanishing like dust in the wind. With a heavy heart, Jinwoo then activated shadow storage, watching as Ygritte, his shadow mages, and the remaining soldiers melted into his shadow, leaving the battlefield empty once more. The system notified him that the class advancement quest was complete. Returning to the real world, Jinwoo found himself in the forest clearing where his journey had begun. It was already dawn, but just with the thought, his shadow soldiers emerged from his shadow, surrounding him without making a sound. Jinwoo now realized he was no longer alone. But this power posed a new problem. How would he hide his shadow army from the world? The solution was his new skill, shadow storage. Checking his updated status window, Jinwoo couldn't help but marvel at how far he had come. Just days ago, his skill list was almost empty. Now it was filled with active and passive abilities, high-grade gear, and the newly obtained class, Monarch of Shadows. But the real world still beckoned. Jinwoo had overslept and missed his appointment to meet Gina's teacher. Panicked, he quickly prepared to leave, but found his graduation suit too small for his now muscular frame. Smiling to himself, he decided it was time for a shopping spree. Despite these mundane concerns, his mind kept drifting back to his shadow army. He could summon and dismiss them freely now, but unleashing them in public would cause mass panic. He'd need to hide them for now. The shadow storage skills solved that problem, letting him keep his soldiers tucked away safely until needed at no mana cost. Though his army was limited to 20 soldiers in storage, Jinwoo knew he could eventually expand that limit with more levels or higher intelligence. But he also began to question the nature of his power. Could he extract shadows from humans, from other hunters? Theoretically, yes, but the moral line was clear. Jinwoo swore never to resurrect a fellow human unless forced to by absolute necessity. For now, he was satisfied with what he had built. A loyal shadow army, a former dungeon boss Ygritte as his knight, himself, No longer the weakest E rank, but the Monarch of Shadows. As he walked towards his next encounter, Jinwoo smiled faintly, imagining how surprised Jinho would be during their next raid. The era of the lone hunter was over. The age of the Shadow Monarch had begun.
While happily reviewing his status screen, Jinwoo noticed something curious. His current title was Wolf Slayer, but there was another unused title. Upon checking, he discovered it was the Conqueror of Adversity, a reward for completing his class selection quest. This title granted a powerful effect. For every 1% of HP lost, all his stats increased by 1%. Unlike Wolf Slayer, which was only useful against monsters, this new title provided a universal buff, making it far more versatile. Without hesitation, Jinwoo switched to the new title, feeling confident about his growing power. Next, he distributed his newly earned stat points. Jinwoo used to pour his points into agility or perception, but now, as the Monarch of Shadows, he invested them in intelligence, the stat controlling his summoning abilities. Despite this, his intelligence stat still lagged far behind his strength and agility, a reminder of how much he had neglected it in the past. He then examined his new skill, Dagger Throw, a perfect fit for his fast, close combat style. Although his class had changed to a summoner-type class, Jinwoo was determined not to abandon his assassin-like combat instincts. Closing the status window, Jinwoo realized he had spent over 20 minutes reviewing his stats. He hurried to prepare for his meeting with Jinna's teacher. Before leaving, he tested the ruler's hand skill by pulling his house keys across the room into his hand, marveling at how effortlessly he could now manipulate objects. On the way, he stopped by the bank to check the profits from his dungeon raids. To his astonishment, his account balance had grown to over 1.4 billion won, all earned within the past few days. The bank clerk, initially thinking he was just a student helping his mother, was shocked when Jinwoo revealed he was a hunter. Her demeanor shifted completely as she tried to pitch VIP banking services, but Jinwoo politely declined and left, aware of how dramatically public perception changed once people knew he was a high-ranking hunter. As he walked outside, Jinwoo gazed up at the towering advertisements, where hunters had replaced singers and athletes as society's celebrities. He realized he was stepping into a new world, one where hunters were icons of power and admiration. With 1.5 billion won earned in just a few days, Jinwoo smiled, knowing anyone would be stunned by such a fortune. But this was only the beginning of his journey as the Monarch of Shadows.